Hey friends and followers, I'm Ro, your friendly neighborhood developer. Today, let's talk about identity as a service with Okta. We'll cover what a basic setup of an Okta cell looks like. We'll also play around with some customizations like logos, adding custom domains, and notification templates. And then we'll use our Okta cell to protect a locally running Node web application. Now, my take on identity as a service is from the point of view of a developer wanting to bring a web-based SaaS app to the market. So let's get into it. A good place to start is by defining what is identity as a service, or IDaaS. Identity as a service providers allow you, the developer, to outsource components of identity and access management to the provider itself. This way, the developer can now focus on adding value, while the IDaaS provider focuses on managing identity and access in this difficult threat environment. Identity today is built on many standards such as OpenID Connect, SAML, OAuth, and WS Federation. By using a provider, it allows you to add a layer of encapsulation, making the complex simple. Most IDaaS providers will allow you to do basic things like adding custom registration and login experiences. You can also easily add features like multi-factor authentication and single sign-on, all with little to no code changes. Most IDaaS providers also support existing digital identities from third-party service providers like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Microsoft. And lastly, one of the more important things is that an identity as a service provider makes it easier for you to comply with different regulatory frameworks like GDPR. With a healthy competition in this space, IDaaS providers like Okta, Ping Identity, Auth0, and Microsoft are making our lives easier. I'll do a subsequent video on factors to consider when choosing the right IDaaS provider and why we chose Okta. But for today, we'll get straight into the fun nerdy bits and set up an Okta cell. Now, signing up for an Okta account is a fairly easy process. All you really need to do is to navigate to Okta's developer portal at developer.okta.com and sign up with your email account. Also, not needing a credit card to sign up is awesome and allows you to get started quickly. Like any sign-up process, you'll need to verify your email. Okta in turn will generate a hostname for you, which should appear in the verification email. Might be a good idea to copy it for later. After signing up, you'll be presented with your Okta cell's developer console. Okta allows you to switch between this view and a classic UI view. Personally, I like the classic UI. It's also good to note that in the long run, you'll likely control these settings with Okta's management APIs. But till then, let's use the classic UI. We'll start the process of personalization by adding basic account details such as your address, your contact, and billing information. This page also contains an important setting that allows you to give Okta support access to your cell when you need their assistance. Now hopefully you won't need that, but as always, be very careful when granting others access. Okta also allows you to toggle different features on your cell, like automated admin reports and password changed email notifications. You can also get early access to a whole bunch of open beta features. It's worth a look. Adding a customized logo and selecting your favorite theme is the next thing you'll want to do. Alternatively, you can navigate to the Custom Sign In menu item under Security, then Customizations, and add custom code to make it look just right for you. If you plan on using the Okta hosted login screen, it might be worth spending some time making sure that things look as close to your brand guidelines as possible. The next thing you'll want to do is to replace the default address of your Okta cell. You do this under the Customizations menu under Settings. To add a custom domain, you'll need a couple of things, namely, you'll need to choose your host name. Second, you need the ability to add a DNS record, both the text record to verify your domain ownership and the ability to add a CNAME entry. You also need an SSL certificate for the chosen host name. If you'd like to know how to get one, watch my other video linked in the description. It's now time to enter a custom domain. As an example, I've chosen to use login.contosoelectronics.org. You choose what suits you. You notice here that Okta asks us to set up a text record to verify that we own this domain. You can see both the record name and value that it expects. I'll go into my DNS hosting provider and set up the text record. Once you add the record, it takes some time to propagate. In my case, it took about 2 minutes. One way of validating is to use the dig utility. Here, I'm using the dig web interface to check if my text record appears as expected. Once it does, you're good to click verify and get to the next step. Now, Okta asks you to enter values of your SSL certificate. If you'd like to know how to get one, watch my other video linked in the description below. Now, in this last step, we need to set up a DNS name entry. Probably a good idea to check the DNS propagation using dig web interface, much like what we did while adding the text record. Once you click finish, the only thing left to do is to check if the custom domain works as expected. Now, you'll also want to update your authorization server issuer URI, which you can do under the API menu item under security. You'll definitely want to do this before any integrations are in place. Probably a good idea to set up MFA now that we have a custom domain in place. You can enable it under security and multi-factor. For the purposes of demonstration, I'm using Google Authenticator. Okta supports a variety of factor options. Now that we've enabled it, Okta will prompt newly created users to set up MFA. For yourself though, you'll need to navigate to My Apps and then click on your profile settings, edit, and click Set up MFA. While I've used Google Authenticator as my factor, you could use the Okta Verify app, or email authentication, or even choose SMS authentication, though I think SMS authentication might not be available in the free tier. You'll have to check. This bit took a while, so feel free to skip 20 seconds ahead to the next section. To finish up, let's test our Okta cell. We'll configure a locally running node application to use a newly created cell. To expedite the process, we'll use one of Okta's Node.js quick starts and clone the sample repo. If you're comfortable with another language, feel free to use that. For this sample, we'll create a config file called test.env, where we'll add placeholders for the issuer URL, the client ID, and the client secret. Now let's add an application in Okta by navigating to Applications, then Create New App. Then select the web app with OpenID Connect as the sign-on method. Remember to add the login redirect URI based on the sample that you've chosen. Once you save this app, be sure to allow the Everyone group to access this application. Now it's time to copy over the client ID and client secret to the config file we created earlier. Once you've done that, you're ready to run the application as shown. And finally, navigate to the startup URL and try logging in. That's all we have in store for you today. I hope this video expedites your journey with Okta. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and as always, please like and subscribe to stay tuned. Happy coding, developers!